Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into something that's really fascinating to me, VR education. And the specific project we're looking at is called VREDU. So to help us navigate this new world, I've invited an expert in emerging tech.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So VREDU, this is a startup that's really trying to change the way we think about education by using VR. Now, we've got their business plan here, and it's pretty interesting stuff. They talk about how the pandemic really, disrupted education around the world, and I think that's something that we all kind of felt and saw.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone remembers trying to adjust to remote learning, right? It wasn't exactly ideal.
They actually put some numbers to that in their plan. They say that something like 135,000 to 150,000 children in Finland alone face significant setbacks in their education during the pandemic.
Wow, yeah, and that's just Finland. Think about the global impact.
Exactly. It's huge.
And even with all the video conferencing and online platforms, it just wasn't the same as being in a classroom. You lose that social interaction, the hands-on learning, even just the atmosphere of a dedicated learning environment. It's all gone.
And I think that's where VREDU comes in. They're trying to bridge that gap, not just by using technology, but by really understanding how people learn best.
Yeah. It's like they're saying, hey, let's not just recreate the classroom in VR. Let's build something even better.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is that this team, they haven't just sprung up overnight. They've been working on this for years. They're ready to launch, and they've chosen Finland as their starting point. So my question is, why Finland? What's so special about Finland?
Finland. Well, Finland is known for having an incredible education system. They consistently score at the top of those PISA rankings, those international student assessments.
Right.
And they really prioritize educational equality.
Okay, so they have a great education system. But what makes Finland the perfect place to launch a VR education startup?
Well, on top of that great education system, they've also really embraced technology in their schools. Teachers are digitally proficient. Students are comfortable learning online. It's like they're primed for projects like VREDU.
So it sounds like Finland is a kind of model nation for what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. A place where their vision can really take root and flourish.
That's fascinating. So they're tackling a real problem. They've got a solid team, and they've chosen a strategic location. I'm already intrigued, but let's dive a little deeper into what VREDU is actually offering.
Sounds good to me. It's a smart move, right? Launching in a country that's already ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to test the waters in a place where innovation is valued. But can VREDU actually deliver on its promises? Their business plan lays out some pretty ambitious goals. Let's take a look at what they're actually offering.
Okay, so they're tackling some major pain points in education and training. Like, think about the cost of travel for conferences and workshops.
Oh, yeah.
And the limitations of traditional training methods, which can be pretty passive and, let's be honest, kind of boring.
Yeah, death by PowerPoint.
Exactly. And even with current online learning platforms, they often lack that, that immersive interactive element that really makes learning stick.
So a lot of problems to solve. What's VREDU's solution?
Well, they're not just about strapping on a VR headset and calling it a day. They're talking about creating realistic, immersive experiences that really go beyond just replicating the real world.
Give me an example.
Sure. Imagine a medical student learning about anatomy. Instead of just reading about the heart in a textbook, they can put on a VR headset and explore a three-dimensional beating heart. They can zoom in to see individual valves and arteries. They can even practice surgical procedures with virtual tools.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's not just for education, right?
Right. They're looking at corporate training, professional development, even hobbies.
So it's like they're building a whole ecosystem for learning.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to aim high with their target audience.
Their business plan lists organizations, educational institutions, individual learners, professionals, even hobbyists.
I mean, it makes sense to cast a wide net early on.
Right. Yeah, I get a feel for the market.
Exactly. See who's biting.
But let's be realistic. Who are their early adopters going to be?
Well, I think it's going to be those who are already comfortable with technology. Tech-savvy schools, companies embracing remote work, and of course, the VR enthusiasts.
Makes sense. But they're not the only ones in the VR education space, are they? Their business plan mentions a bunch of competitors.
True. The VR education market is getting pretty crowded.
So how does VREDU stand out from the crowd?
Well, they've identified some key differentiators. First, their emphasis on a membership model rather than one-time licensing fees.
Okay, so more like Netflix for VR education.
Exactly. Pay a monthly fee and get access to a whole library of content.
Interesting. And what else?
They're focused on a win-win strategy that benefits both VREDU and its users.
Win-win. That sounds a bit vague.
Well, they're aiming for high user numbers at a low cost per user, which allows them to gather tons of data on user behavior and preferences and use that data to improve their platform.
So the more users they have, the better their platform becomes,
Right.
which attracts even more users.
Balance. It's a virtuous cycle.
I like it. And finally, they're not just a bunch of techies with a cool idea. Their business plan highlights their diverse backgrounds and experience.
Yeah, one of the founders, Neslihan Gules, she's already running a successful e-commerce brand.
So they understand business, not just technology.
Right. They're combining a great product with a solid understanding of how to build a successful company.
And that's crucial for any startup.
But here's where things get really interesting. They want to go beyond VR into XR, extended reality.
Hold on, I'm still wrapping my head around VR. What's XR?
Think of it as the next evolution of immersive technology. It includes virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality.
Okay, what does that mean for VREDU?
Well, they're talking about incorporating sensory experiences like smell, temperature, even touch into their platform.
Smell, temperature, touch. Are we talking about like a full sensory matrix situation here?
It might sound like science fiction, but the technology is advancing rapidly.
So what would that look like in practice?
Imagine learning about the Amazon rainforest and not only seeing it, but feeling the humidity and heat, smelling the damp earth and the exotic flowers.
Whoa.
Or a history student exploring ancient Rome, not just seeing the Colosseum, but feeling the cobblestones beneath their feet and hearing the roar of the crowd.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing. But it also raises a lot of questions.
Definitely.
Like, is this even possible with current technology? And what are the ethical implications of creating such realistic experiences?
Those are important questions and ones that we need to be thinking about as this technology develops.
I mean, if VREDU succeeds in creating these truly immersive, multi-sensory learning experiences, what will that mean for the future of education? Will traditional classrooms even exist anymore?
That's a fascinating question, and one that we'll need to explore further as VREDU's vision takes shape.
Yeah, it's exciting, but also a little bit scary. I mean, think about the potential challenges: accessibility, digital literacy, the cost of the technology. Not everyone has access to high-speed internet or a VR headset. Could this create a new kind of digital divide?
It's a valid concern, and it's something that VREDU addresses in their plan. They talk about minimizing data usage, making sure their platform works with a variety of VR headsets, and even exploring partnerships to provide subsidized access for low-income communities and schools.
It's good that they're thinking about those issues, but it's definitely something that needs to be addressed on a wider scale. We can't let access to quality education depend on whether or not you can afford the latest gadgets.
Absolutely. It's about more than just the technology itself. It's about infrastructure training support. Teachers need to be equipped to use VR effectively, and students need ongoing support to help them navigate these virtual worlds.
It's almost like we need to start thinking about virtual reality as a new kind of literacy, a fundamental skill for the 21st century.
I like that VR literacy. It's a good way to put it.
And speaking of the business side of things, VRDU has some pretty specific goals for growth and expansion.
Oh yeah, they're not messing around.
They're really emphasizing partnerships.
Which makes sense. It's a smart way to scale up quickly.
And they're also being very strategic about protecting their intellectual property.
Yeah, they're registering trademarks, patenting designs. They're in it for the long haul.
They even have some impressive revenue projections. It seems like they've really done their homework.
And what I really appreciate is their commitment to social responsibility. They're not just focused on profits. They want to use their platform to promote equal opportunities in education, to minimize their environmental impact, even to support nonprofit organizations.
It's refreshing to see a company that's not only innovating, but also thinking about their impact on the world.
It gives me hope that we can use these powerful technologies for good.
We've covered a lot of ground today. The origins of VREDU, their vision, the potential benefits and challenges of VR education, their plans for the future. What stands out to you as the most significant takeaway?
I think it's the sheer ambition of VREDU. They're not just building a VR platform. They're trying to change the way we learn, to push the boundaries of what's possible. Whether they succeed or not is another question, but their vision is incredibly compelling.
It's been an amazing journey exploring this new world of VR education with you. Thanks for joining me.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to this deep dive into VREDU and the future of learning. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.